Good afternoon. So, welcome to the Department of the Navy's Office of Small Business Programs first office hour. So, we're excited to introduce you to some of those in our office. Will be here to join us today. So, I'll turn it over to Mr. Smith.
All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you again for joining our office hours webinar series. I'm going to have my team members introduce themselves. First, Ms. Arviz, let's start with you.
Exactly. Arviz Washington, I'm Mr. Smith's deputy here in the Office of Small Business Programs.
Next, let's go to Brad.
I'm Brad Taylor. I'm the Assistant Director of Small Business. I'm also the Subcontracting Program Manager and an advisor to the Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Navy for Procurement.
Outstanding. Next, let's go to Miss Elise Bullock.
Good afternoon. Elise Bullock, Department of the Navy, Assistant Director and Program Manager for Data Analysis.
Next, let's go to Miss Denise Randolph, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Denise Randolph, and I am the Chief of Staff here with Mr. Smith's team, and my job is to support all of the people that you see on the screen. Over.
And last but not least, and again, this isn't the entire office, but let's go with Miss Thurston. Over to you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, all. My name is Mercedes Thurston, and I'm the Mentor Protege Program Manager in the Department of Navy Office of Small Business Programs.
And we'll hear a lot from Ms. Thurston today because we got a lot of questions and interest on Mentor Protege program. So,
and we also have Miss Destiny White operating behind the scenes, doing all of the IT and staging that happens behind the scenes. So didn't want to not include her in the introductions, but she's doing the off-camera thing. All right, Ms. Arviz, I'll turn it over to you, ma'am.
So, sir, we've been doing a lot here in Navy's Office of Small Business Programs and got a lot of great initiatives going on. Tell us some of the things that you're doing, and specifically in the way of with the Secretary of the Navy.
Absolutely. So hopefully you all know that our Secretary of the Navy, Mr. Carlos Del Toro, is a passionate and strong leader when it comes to small business participation. Prior to being the Secretary of the Navy, he was a small business owner for 17 years. And then prior to that, he served active duty in the Navy where he was a ship driver. So I've probably got the best boss in the world right now because he helps me in my priorities in my day job because he is locked in focused on increasing small business participation and making sure small businesses have barriers removed for doing business with us. One of the things he's done to sort of, really put a personal touch on being in the office that he's in is he's called for roundtables to be conducted. And typically, wherever he goes in the United States, prior to his official government event, we hold small business roundtables. And the small business roundtables consist of this office inviting our industry partners, our government officials that are within 100 miles of the location where he's going to be for his official government trip. The night before, we're going to invite you onto the base so that we can have a roundtable discussion with the Secretary of the Navy and address questions, issues, challenges you're having, hear about good news stories that you may have also. But let's have a personal interaction with the Secretary of the Navy. So everywhere he goes, just about over the course of flying through the United States, we're having small business roundtables, and those discussions are quite meaningful. And I take a lot of action items and bring back a lot of work to the team from those discussions, but a lot of personal upfront engagements with the Secretary and our industry partners.
So talking about engagements with industry partners, we are very focused on subcontracting and what efforts are going on there. Can you tell us a little bit about the things you and your team are doing with large business engagements?
Outstanding. And working for the Office of Small Business Programs, you think we would be laser focused on just small businesses. But we're also working with large industry primes to make sure that they're being held accountable to honor their subcontracting plans. So we met with several of our large industry partners of recent, and we're giving opportunities to understand how are they complying with the subcontracting plans that we have contractually invoked upon them. A lot of great exchange going on, a lot of great things that our larger industry partners are doing. And for those areas that we see shortfalls, we're asking them to make those necessary corrections to improve that operating environment that they have with their subcontractors. So we're engaged on small businesses' behalf at not just interaction for prime contracts, but also at the subcontracting level, and making sure that those work share agreements are being enforced as they were agreed upon at contract award.
Great. So in talking about awards and execution, can you tell the audience a little bit about where we are with our performance and where we're looking to project to end up at the end of the year?
Absolutely. Across the Department of the Navy, and this data is current as of 7 June 22, so a couple of days ago, we're currently at 15.56% of meeting our small business participation goal. The goal itself is 17.10% by the end of September. So 15.56, we're tracking to not only meet that goal of 17.10, but exceed that goal of small business participation. Across the socioeconomic groups, let's go into small disadvantaged businesses. I have a goal of 8.3%. We're currently tracking to a 5.5% at the moment. In the area of small disadvantaged veteran-owned businesses, the goal, 2.46%. We're currently at 2.45%. So we're homing in close to achieving our goal regarding service-disabled veteran-owned companies. Next on the list, women-owned small businesses. We have a goal of 2.8% of the Navy's money going towards that objective, and the current performance is 2.2%. So we're homing in on that as well. And last but not least is HubZone. We have a goal of 1.48% of the Navy's money going in that direction. We're currently at 1.41%. So we're tracking quite well with all of our goals that are being set out on us. I'm a little concerned about women-owned small businesses, but I think with increased focus and as we get closer to the end of the fiscal year, we will not only meet those goals, but also achieve them. But we need our industry partners to play a part in that equation. You have to be willing to get some of this work that we have available. And all of the socioeconomic groups absolutely matter to us. And making sure that everyone gets a fair share and opportunity to do business with us is what we're striving for.
So you talked a little bit about the small disadvantaged business goal being 8.3%, but that OMB guidance has that SDB goal at 11%. Can you talk a little bit about what that delta is and how we get there?
Absolutely. So the goals that have been set out across the Office of Management and Budget through Executive Order 13985, those goals are set at an agency level. The Department of the Navy is not its own agency. We are within the Department of Defense. So I count on my colleagues from the Air Force, the Army, and the Fourth Estate to contribute to that agency goal of achieving that 11.0% increase that President Biden has called for. So we're doing our part based on the things that we buy across the Navy. We do a beginning of the fiscal year engagement where we all determine what can we contribute by way of the acquisition programs that we have planned for that fiscal year. And this is our fair share towards achieving that goal. And you will find other services more amenable in certain areas than we are because of the things they buy. When you buy a large aircraft carrier, that's $14-15 billion that go in the denominator for the equation that we're trying to solve. I don't know many small businesses that can take on the opportunity to be the prime for an aircraft carrier, or else I would blow my goals and objectives out of the water with just one contract in action. But because those things are such large capital assets, demand such a large pull from our budget, having what remains vectored and targeted towards small businesses, that's what we're locked in on. And the goals and percentages are just goals, they're percentages that we try to achieve, but we get the work done first and foremost. And achieving these goals and on the outset of it, it goes along with doing business in the proper manner that as a federal government should.
So just to talk a little bit about the many on our of our attendees might know the Department of Navy includes the Navy and Marine Corps, and they might be familiar with Army and Air Force. Just a quick snippet on what that fourth estate is, because I get a lot of those questions as well.
So the fourth estate are those things that are ancillary to the services. And typically you would find an organization like the Defense Logistics Agency. So things we need to buy as a total department, you can find those things from the Defense Logistics Agency. Missile Defense Agency, they're included in the fourth estate. So you have certain components that are broken off separately from the services because of maybe the jointness of their programs and their ability to reach out across the entire department instead of just being laser focused onto a service. Is what the fourth estate is all about. And again, you can kind of look at the Defense Logistics Agency like Super Walmart. And the Navy has its own exchanges that we buy things, specifically for the Navy, but DLA will buy things at great expense for the department and for use at that consumer level. Hopefully that helps.
That does help. Thank you, sir. And I'm sure if there are more questions, we will get them. So you do have the opportunity to ask some questions here, but we have a laundry list of questions that we would like to get through. And some of them, the responses might weave into the questions. And we know we've got a lot of buzz here on the Mentor Protege program. But before we get started, one thing I'd like to do is turn it over to Ms. Denise Randolph to talk a little bit about how is it as a small business I can get to that program manager to present a capabilities brief, or how do I go about finding information on who in the Department of Navy buys what it is that I'm selling?
Thank you for the opportunity to address that. So good afternoon, everyone, again. So this is one of the questions that we get quite often, and we call that matchmaking. So you probably heard that across various different agencies and platforms. We have a very healthy website that provides you a wealth of information on how you actually can figure out what the Navy is going to buy, when they're going to buy it, even what we bought, and how long that contract's going to last. It's called a long-range acquisition forecast. And if you go to the SECNAV website, so it's secnav.navy.mil/small business, there is how to do business with the Navy. And there's a specific section called long range acquisition forecast. For all of the 10 buying activities that forms a part of the Department of the Navy, you can get to their long range acquisition forecast, download it to your particular computer and search it for anything that you might be familiar with. Now, one of the shortcomings that we are aware of on this particular platform is that it lacks a NAICS code. So it's not like you can type your NAICS in there and actually figure out, what it is they're actually going to be buying according to your NAICS, but you can do it using a word search. That is one of the items that Mr. Smith has commissioned to be improved upon in the next fiscal year. So we are currently identifying the different points of contact within the Department of Navy who are going to address the deficiencies that we have found in the long range acquisition forecast to make it a better tool for you and your fellow small businesses. Now, when it's actually time for you to figure out what you want to do, go to the website, download that, do your research. It'll tell you which activity has the particular requirement that you might be interested in. Within that website, there's a point of contact for every particular command's small business director. There's a website that you'll go to, an email address that you'll go to, and you'll be able to contact them directly about that particular acquisition. Please, please, please do your homework. If all you're going to do is send them a capabilities brief and say, hey, I'm capable and I want to provide you support, it's probably going to be a little while before they get to you. But if you go to them and say, hey, I've seen on your long range acquisition forecast that this particular program office has a requirement for this, and we're interested in doing that, it's the potential for you to get a much faster response is significantly increased. Do your homework. Know what you provide, understand what the organizations within the Department of Navy are looking for, and reach out to that small business director who can then put you in touch with whomever the point of contact is for that procurement. So you have an opportunity to get in front of them and tell them what you can do to provide your good and or service to the Department of the Navy. So please take advantage of the tools on our website. Like I said, it has a wealth of information out there to include what we have bought again in years past, as well as what we intend to buy in the years to come. And it does have points of contact, email addresses for all of the different small business directors and those folks in our office if you need to reach out to them for further information. Hopefully, Ms. Washington, that answers the question that you posed.
It does, but I'd also like to add the great video. So Ms. Thurston just posted to our a link to our YouTube channel where we put together a Doing Business with the Don, Department of the Navy video. And we will, by the end of next week, have a checklist that will be posted on our website that can go along with that video. It's about a 5-minute video that'll walk you through the process of the various things that Ms. Randolph just shared with you. So thank you for that, ma'am. All right, well, let's get into these questions. We've got about 45 minutes. I'm very excited. So if you want to do business with the Department of the Navy in the services area, you have to have a seaport contract or be on a MAC. Mr. Smith, when will an on-ramp for small businesses happen for the next Seaport NXG? You're on mute.
Okay, didn't want the home security alarm going off. That dog barks at the wrong time all the time. All right, so under the Seaport E, we used to hold rolling admissions every year, but the world has changed a little bit since those days. And when we're going to conduct another admission onto Seaport, we don't quite know yet. And one of the challenges that we're having is that the Navy is migrating to a new contract writing system. And that scheduled rollout for that initial capability will be in the 2024, 2025 time frame. So we're a little bit hesitant right now to commit to another rolling admission regarding Seaport until we understand how this new reincarnation of our contract writing system will be rolled out. So don't have a good date for that yet. Just to look back through the rearview mirror a little bit, our last rolling admission was in the July 2021 timeframe, and back then we had 600 MACs, and 89% of those awardees were small businesses that are in the population. And currently, right now, we have 2,470 industry partners on that vehicle working under Seaport Next Gen. So don't have a good answer for you right now regarding the next rolling admission, but we don't anticipate things changing very much in that regard until later. So stay posted, stay tuned on that one.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about the Mentor Protege program, Ms. Thurston. Who is the representative? So can you provide your contact information? And also we see that there are some questions in the chat. We do have a generic email address for our office that if you send it to that, that our public affairs officer, Ms. White, will take that email, forward it to us, and we'll get back to you within 48 hours.
And that is posted in the chat.
Thank you, ma'am. So tell us a little bit about the Mentor Protege program. How can we get in contact with you? How can I get an agreement? How can I find more information on your website?
Okay, so first things first, we did do a Mentor Protege webinar a while ago, December. That is on the YouTube page, which is the link that I posted earlier in the chat. So make sure you go to the chat because there are great links and information there. So there is a YouTube video about the Mentor Protege program. We are in the works of doing another possible Ask Me Anything or webinar for the Mentor Protege program to discuss the changes that have happened since December 2020 till now. As I mentioned before, I'm the Mentor Protege program manager. So if you're interested in it, you can either reach out to the general email or you can reach out to me. what should happen, and the biggest thing that I like to explain to all individuals is the Navy is a little bit different from the rest of the Department of Defense's mentor protege programs. The other agencies like to do BAA's announcements for our mentor protege programs. The Navy allows a mentor and a protege to come to us and say, hey, we have a mentor protege agreement that we would like to do with the Navy. This is the program or the customers that it will support, and we move forward from there. So if you're interested, you just got to reach out to us. Our website also has a wealth of information that has the Mentor Protege Guidebook that kind of tells you what steps you should do before reaching out to me. And it has my direct information, telephone number, and email address. I'm happy to do meetings if you have ideas. The one thing that we do like to announce and to tell everyone is that we do not marry the mentors and proteges. Those should be natural, cultivated relationships. So we don't like to pair people together. The mentor protege program works better when you already have a relationship built. So yeah. You want me to address some more questions, or is that a good?
So following along those lines, does the Navy have any mentor protege programs for specifically women-owned small business, economically disadvantaged women-owned small business, hub zone companies?
So there is no specific mentor protege program. In order to be a protege, you do have to fall in one of the socioeconomic categories of that small business. So if you are a small business of all of the categories that Ms. Washington listed, you would be a perfect protege. But as I mentioned, we will not pair you with the mentor. You kind of have to find your own mentor. But the mentor protege program will be a perfect program for all of those small businesses categories that you previously listed.
Great. Thank you, ma'am. So moving on, we're going to talk about a hot topic. So Ms. Randolph brought up the long range acquisition forecast when she was doing the introduction about how to go about finding information. And we recognize across the 10 major buying commands, not all LRAFs are made equally. So Denise, can you tell the audience here a little bit about the initiative that you're doing? And what's required, what we're going to be looking for from our commands.
Absolutely, thank you. So right now, if you all take a look at the LRAS, as I mentioned before, one of the fundamental categories that we think are missing from the mandatory posting is a NAICS code. So, you know, if you only are doing business in a specific area, it might be very difficult for you once you go and download the 10 different LRAFs to figure out what might be there. Some people just say, you know, we're going to build a ship. Right. Well, there's a whole lot of opportunities within building a ship that small businesses could take part of. So one of the things that, as I indicated, Mr. Smith has commissioned is for us to look at how we can take some of these larger opportunities and mandate the breakdown of those into the smallest possible procurements, and then have NAICS codes identified for each of those. There's also going to be points of contact listed for each of those, so that there might not be their email addresses and phone numbers. And this information is, many of them might be 3 years out. So when you actually see it out there, we're hoping to provide you the name of the point of contact, as well as the NAICS code, the anticipated release date of the solicitation, so that if you all need to get a team together to meet a requirement, so that you can submit your proposal, that you know when the Department of the Navy intends to drop that solicitation. So that's the biggest effort that we're going to undertake. We're also going to try to have a better idea of the value of the procurement, because that also is missing, so that you know whether or not this is something that's going to be $10 billion or whether it's going to be something that's, you know, $10,000. And then one of the last categories that we're hoping to add is if in fact they intend to set it aside, to have a separate category for those that as part of the acquisition strategy is either going to be mandated to be set aside or planned to set aside, so that you can go in using a variety of filters to be able to cull through the data. Because I will tell you, some of the LRAFs, for any of you all who have looked at them, you know, could be 4,000, 5,000 lines of information out there. So it could be a lot of information to try to filter through. So we're looking to make that a better product for you. And as I said, I expect that we'll be demoing that, rolling it out in FY23, but we are working in the background now to get agreement on what the right categories are to be included. And if there's anything that you all believe would make it a better product for you to understand, please email the osbp.pao@navy.mil email address, and we will take all of that under advisement. So Ms. Washington, back to you.
Great, thank you, ma'am. So it's important for small businesses in looking at that long range acquisition forecast to kind of plan things out on what opportunities they want to go after. But on the government side, we have something called the procurement acquisition. I think it's lead time. It's called the PALT. And I'm going to turn it over to Brad to talk a little bit about that PALT and the importance of it, and how is it that the PALT timeline is determined for various acquisitions?
The answer is actually fairly easy. Obviously, when you're looking at building an aircraft carrier as compared to a 15-foot sailboat for the Naval Academy or something, there's a lot more involved. It's much more complex. And so the PALT time, there's certain timelines, there's certain amount of time that the acquisitions have to be on the street, and the amount of time to conduct certain approvals and a lot of the administrative stuff. Now, on top of that, if you have a major project, there may be several different phases of that acquisition that are built in to determining how long it's going to take the life cycle of this particular acquisition. So it varies from procurement to procurement. When I was at the Military Sealift Command, we did multi-million-dollar procurements, sometimes overnight. So obviously the PALT time was very short. We were dealing within a commercial market. At NAVC, there's a lot of planning and design work and approvals. You're dealing with many times, multi-billion-dollar procurements. You're dealing with a class of ship. So the PALT times are going to be much, much longer. One of the issues that come up over and over and over again is, why does it take so long for the government to contract? And I often refer to an article I read back in, it was from the Army Navy Times, that addressed this issue. And there were big complaints about the process is so long. Well, that article was over 100 years ago. So nothing has changed. We're still a big, complex machine. We deal with industry that's very complex. And also we get things thrown to us from left field if we get a protest or something on that order that extends the PALT time. So PALT times, sometimes we've got a great timelines and everything is, we think that we're going to get it done when we need to get it done. But things happen and procurements then get delayed. So for this particular question, the answer is easy. It depends on the particular procurement and the complexity of the procurement.
Thank you, Brian. So, Mr. Smith, you talked a little bit about the performance when we were talking about performance, that executive order 13985 in the OMB memo M-22-03. Can you tell our audience here who might not be familiar about it, what it is, what are the 5 initiatives under that OMB memo? And then we have a follow-up question for Brad.
Well, in keeping with the executive order, President Biden saw the need to increase small disadvantaged participation across the government and to help build back America, make it stronger again from an economic standpoint. And within that document, he called for an increase in small business participation in the small disadvantaged world to increase from 11% to 15% by the year 2024, if I'm not mistaken. Pushing that requirement out increase in small business participation drives us into a behavior of we need to break work apart for small businesses to be able to be the contributors to the work that we have to execute. So in keeping with that, contracting officers, program managers, we're all now sensitized to when we make our deals, when we get our procurement actions underway, taking those considerations into account also. That's not the first thing in everybody's mind. It's not the last thing either, but it's one of those equal considerations that we're paying homage to in order to increase that supplier diversity, increase the industrial base, reduce the fragility in our industrial base. Because one of the things that people don't understand when you're doing business with the Department of Defense is that things during a peacetime scenario standpoint, they can be a steady state. But if we need to surge to wartime capacity, we need industry partners that are going to be there to support the needs of the Department of Defense. And that surge requirement is one thing that we're definitely looking out for and making sure that we have opportunities to work with industry partners and be able to keep up with the demand signal that's being asked for. When we look into further look into the executive order, there are requirements that are now placed on procurement officials across the entire government. Within our performance objectives, we're now called to meet a higher standard of responsibility in making sure that those actions that we take don't negatively impact small businesses or create barriers to entry or create barriers to doing business with us. So it's a very comprehensive look at increasing small business participation across the government. Highly encourage our industry partners to look at it. But know first and foremost, when you're dealing with the government entities that are buying capability or buying things or buying services, you have to be good at that thing that you're providing to us. Just to walk in and say, I'm a small disadvantaged business, give me a contract, I'm looking for money that I was supposedly entitled to, that's not the case. We're here about meeting the mission, and that comes first and foremost. And nothing about the executive order or the OMB memo takes away from do the right thing in order to support those that you're caring for. In our case, we've got warfighters going into harm's way that we want to see come back to their families and come back home safely. So first and foremost, get the mission done, but we're being equitable across the board to make sure that small businesses, be it small disadvantaged, service disabled, veteran, women, all you get an equity and share of what we're doing in this regard. And that's from DOD down to the services and all across the entire federal government. So we're all poised to meet what the president's asked for in that regard. Over.
Thank you, sir. So with that, we have a small business here who is an 8A, an SDB firm, and they're looking to compete for both small business set-asides and full and open competitions. So would the Department of Navy consider pricing adjustments for 8A and SDB solicitations? Brad.
But Brad, I'll let you chime in afterwards. Okay. But one of the things that we are also focused on is that market research. We want to understand that we're getting a competitive price. We're getting fair pricing when it comes to the work that we're trying to drive. We aren't looking to drive anyone out of business. Everyone here wants you to make a profit. We want your business to thrive because, like I said, I need to reduce the fragility in my industrial base. So we're going to be competitive. We've got to get a good deal for the taxpayers of the United States at the end of the day. And that's why competition is key. Having set asides for certain social economic groups, when we send out sources sought, we need you to respond to those requests to give us the insight that there are people out there who can do that work. And if you reach the critical mass of folks of who you need that you can set that side of work for because you responded to those sources sought, you give us more inclination to move things into those set aside opportunities. So when we ask, you've got to respond. And I know it's a burden it takes away from your day job, but if you want to cultivate future opportunities to work with us, you've got to respond to these opportunities where we say, hey, is there anybody out there who can do this work? And we have to have that rule of two, right? We need to have at least two people who can get the work done. So if you one industry partner who are great at the thing that you do, You need to bring a friend and say that we can both put in for this work and then go competitively at one another to get this work from us. But you can't be one of. We can't control pricing. We can't pressurize the system from a competitive standpoint if there's just one. So we're going to look for folks who we can set it aside to or provide that capability. And one of the things that I stress upon my small business is that you have to deliver. You don't have a choice. You have to deliver. If you win the contract with us, you have to deliver, or you're poisoning the well for everybody coming in behind you, because someone may be a little bit reluctant if they've had a bad experience dealing with a small business in a prior year, if that entity failed them and now I'm inclined to not look that way anymore because I had a bad experience. Don't make it bad for everyone else that's coming in behind you. You absolutely have to deliver. Brad, I'll turn it over to you.
You well said. Market research is key. The other thing that I would highly recommend, that if you have not contacted your small business professional or the associate director of small business at these various different buying commands, we have 10 different buying commands. You need to do so, because if they don't know that you're there, when they're reviewing the acquisition, they're looking at what is the market research behind the decisions that are being made by the program people to enhance the competition or set it aside or whatever it may be. If they don't know that you're there, they don't know you're there. I mean, we just can't pull these things out of the air, especially the sources sought and the RFIs. Critical. And there are tools out there that do make it easier for you to respond. You can just Google some of these things that you can have templates set up that will enable you to just basically push a button, after filling in a few blanks. I'm not going to give you names of different companies that do that, but BidSpeed is one such example, but I'm not advertising. But in any event, looking at incentives and that sort of thing, or price adjustments, hub zones, we already, and I think it's FAR 19.1307 describes how price adjustments are made for hub zones. We used to have in the old days a price adjustment for SDBs. That's gone by the wayside. And so what you're going to see in many of the contracts now is that you're going to see minimum goals for SDBs. Not so much for 8As. That's different. You got to remember that 8As are a business development program. It's not a socioeconomic set aside or anything, or a socioeconomic category. SDB, an 8A is part of an SDB. And an 8A program is set up by the SBA, that you have a certain number of years to build your business and have a certain mix of commercial and government work, et cetera, et cetera. But you're going to see that there are going to be certain requirements to meet certain thresholds. And that is one way for us to hit this 11%. As Mr. Smith said, you got to perform. The fact that, there's an SDB goal going to 11% doesn't mean that we're just taking calls from people that are saying, I'm an SDB, give me my contract. It's like, well, what do? You need to have that capability. And so that's why I say get into that discussion with the associate directors of small business, or the deputies, or a small business professional. They are your advocate into that organization. If you're new, contact the Procurement Technical Assistance Centers. It's a free service. They will tell you what you need to do to better position yourself to compete on these contracts, so that when you speak to us, you're not coming to us for us to tell you what you need to do in order to work with us. You need to be able to tell us what your capability is and how you're going to plug in. Now, the small business socioeconomic stuff and all of the, any of the set-asides and all of those socioeconomic tools are in your toolbox, that if you have the capability, then we may be able to open up that toolbox and use those tools to get to you. And the key thing is what Mr. Smith said, bring a friend, because that rule of two is critical. If you're the only guy or gal or whatever, and you say, hey, listen, I'm going to kind of corner the market here, and it doesn't work that way. You need to come and know what your market is, know what your competition is, especially with firms that are upstart. The other thing that you may want to consider is if you've got a technology, and I think that somebody's going to speak to this later on, is pursue, again, mentor protege, or pursue the SBIR program. So that's that.
Great. Thank you, Brad. Ms. Elise.
Yes,
8A contracts, and looking at the data and what the Department of the Navy is executing, where have you seen 8A contracts be successful in developing relationships and securing contracts?
well, in FY21, the Department of Navy did $2.25 billion in 8A awards. And of that $2.25 billion, $246 million went to new 8A businesses. And of that, we have the top NAICS for those. The top 5 NAICS was in commercial and institutional building construction, facility support services, computer system design services, engineering services, and custom computer programming services were the top 5 NAICS for 8A new vendors for the Department of Navy in FY21.
So to follow on, and just for the audience, we might not have all the questions. We certainly won't be able to get through the about 50 questions that we received, plus these in the chat in the next 18 minutes. To be honest, we're only on question number 8 as we speak. But so what we do plan to do, so let me just take an aside. What we do plan to do is we're going to take all of the questions. We will answer each question and post it to the website. This is being recorded, so the link will be available on our website under past, what is it called, Destiny? Past webinars. And then also posted on our YouTube channel. That's where we house all of our videos. So talking about performance, and what are some of those industries, Elise, have you seen? And we can just look at fiscal year 21. Small businesses were most prevalent. You talked about the 8A ones, but do you know where small businesses were most prevalent, and where were there areas where we were lacking?
Well, mainly for the most prevalent ones, we always look at the top 10 and top 5. For overall Navy, for the top, I have the top 10 NAICS, but I'll just read off some of the top 5 as a whole. Shipbuilding and repairing, aircraft manufacturing, engineering services, search and detection, navigation, and commercial institutional building facilities. But for small businesses, our top 5 NAICS were like engineering services, commercial institutional building construction, shipbuilding and repairing, research and development, and physical engineering and life sciences, and other computer-related services. Facility support services were the top 5 for small business overall Navy in those categories.
And you did an analysis, you and your team, where we looked at the entrance and exits from our industrial base. So how many new small businesses have come into doing business with the Navy, and how many have exited that space? And that's something that we've tracked historically, but in looking at between fiscal years 20 and 21, I think we had 1,000 new entrants into our industrial base and about 750 exited our industrial base. And just some of those that exited were under the portfolio groups, building and plant maintenance, IT services, education and training. Those were just a few. So that's just situational awareness. We threw that out as a nugget for everyone. So let's get back to the questions. And something that I'm seeing as a trend as I look through the questions and some in the chat, difficulty with performance. And I was proposed as a subcontractor and I didn't get any work or the amount of work that I was expecting. Past performance or their stringent requirements put in the solicitations that weed out small business. So Mr. Smith, this one's for you. What things is it the department is doing and how is it that you're leading the charge and helping to break down some of those barriers?
Well, one of the things that we need from our industry partners is that feedback. When you see something that doesn't look quite right when the solicitation goes out, the Office of Small Business Programs is here for you. I can't tell you how many questions and concerns that we've addressed in the 3 years that I've been here, but it's tremendous. I mean, just to give you, not to attribute it to any particular organization or solicitation that we put out, but there were requirements in a solicitation that said the offerers needed to be within 5 miles of the headquarters location of that facility that was making the solicitation. And I'm like, wait, why is that the case? Because 90% of the folks who work there are actually teleworking. So I contacted a contracting officer, asked the question that was raised by an industry partner as to why is this the case? And the contracting officer said, I'm surprised that's in there. And it was an update was made to the solicitation. That particular requirement, that stringent requirement, was removed, and your voices were heard. So again, folks don't always get it right. We try to get it right every single time we do things, but when you see something that's wrong, please raise a hand, raise a flag, say that something's causing a barrier for you to be able to do business with us, and you have capability that would otherwise be missed if we didn't have the opportunity to do business with you. So please raise those concerns to my office or any of the small business directors that are associated with the 10 major buying commands, and we can go have that engagement. Can't promise that everything's going to be satisfied with the contracting officers and program managers to your liking every single time, but we are there to make sure that things that are wrong, we set right. And you can't go wrong in a situation like that. We show up with, we want to help it become better. We're not here to choke down competition or opportunities for others. So again, don't sit on your hands when you see something that's not quite right.
So I'd like to probably append that a little bit just to kind of add to it. It's very important that even though you contact us, to contact the contracting officer, because if in fact you don't and they move forward with that solicitation and don't make a change, you aren't an interested party to be able to protest. So we do not have the ability to change anything. So it's extremely important that during that time that the solicitation is open, if you have a question and answer, and that's part of every solicitation that's released, that you have an opportunity to ask a question and they are responsible to address that question. So you should also, in addition to contacting us, we should probably be your second call. You really should be reaching out to the contracting officer for that particular solicitation and then letting us know you did that, just in case they need a little extra bump from Mr. Smith or one of the folks that he appoints to follow up to that. So I can't stress it enough that you really need to be reaching out to the contracting officer for these things related to a specific solicitation. Over.
So Denise, don't go on mute yet, because I want to talk about that assistance that you provided to a small business. Came to you, I think we were at an outreach event, and said, hey, I was awarded a contract, but they haven't done anything with this. Just as an example of support that our office and our small business professional community provides.
Okay, so we were at an 8A event in Florida, and one of the small businesses came to me and said, hey, I received a contract, but not any work yet. And I need somebody's help. I've reached out to SBA, I've reached out to the contracting office, I've reached out to the Corps. So I said, okay, Send me a copy of your contract because I actually want to read what your contract says because I wanted to make sure it wasn't an IDIQ contract or anything like that. And it in fact was not. The small business in this particular situation was 100% correct. They had been awarded a firm fixed price contract, but because of a deficiency in the solicitation and then the subsequent award document, they were unable to give work because of a DD 254 issue. That is not something that can be assessed against a small business. That's a government issue. So I reached out to the contracting office and I too was unsuccessful in getting a response from the contracting officer. I have a few more tools at my disposal. So I affected some of those tools at my disposal, went up the chain of command, and we were successful in getting that situation remedied to the contractor satisfaction, and not just their satisfaction, but fairness. So our job here in this office is to assist small businesses in having their voices heard. In this particular situation, their voice needed to be heard with respect to a problem with the contract that they were not otherwise being heard. So Mr. Smith employed his team and his tools to be able to help small businesses, get what was justly their due. Over.
Thank you, ma'am. And we talk about contact, that small business professional should be your first line of defense. But I know everyone's question is, how do I find out who that small business person is, right? So we do have approximately 200 small business professionals across the Department of the Navy. And on our website, there's a map there. And up until January of this year, we had listed every small business professional, their name, their email address, their phone number. We might as well have had their social security number up there. But the heavens came down on us. So we had to pull that off the website. So unfortunately, we cannot list names, email addresses, and phone numbers of points of contact. And this is a DoD directive as a result of 9/11. But what we are working to and what we promise to get to you is by the end of next week, that map will be updated with at least each location within the commands and within each state and a generic email address. So you will have my office's email address as a backup, but your first line of defense is going to be reaching out to that small business professional at the activity that you're looking to do business with. If within 72 hours, so give them a couple days, that they don't respond to you, you can reach out to us or you can reach out to their small business director and contact them to get in contact with those individuals. On our website, we have links to each one of the 10 major buying commands. And those links lead to the small business page at each of those commands where you can search on there. So they can post individually the names, email addresses, and phone numbers of their small business professionals. You can find those on their website. So for example, if you're looking at NavAir, you can go to the NavAir's small business office site and you'll see all of the small business professionals that work for NavAir. So Mercedes, can you tell us a little bit, so back to Mentor Protege. We've heard a lot about the Mentor Protege program, Department of Defense, Department of Navy, SBA. There's so many different Mentor Protege programs out there. Tell us about the difference between the Department of Navy or DOD's Mentor Protege program and SBA.
Okay, so I don't have a lot of information on the SBA Mentor Protege program, and that is something that we have been trying to get in the works where we could do a possible webinar. We can set up the big, huge differences. But the one thing that I do want to let you guys know is you can have both a SBA Mentor Protege agreement and a DoD Mentor Protege agreement at the same time. Within the DoD, you can only have, as a small business, you can only have one mentor protege agreement within the entire Department of the Navy. So, I'm sorry, Department of Defense. So if you're a small business, if you fall in one of those socioeconomic categories and you have a mentor protege agreement with the Department of Navy, you cannot go then and go get one with Department of, or the Army or Air Force. That is your one for Department of Defense. But you can, however, still have one with the SBA. I do not believe there are funds associated with the SBA Mentor Protege Program, whereas our Mentor Protege Program, DoD, provides up to $2 million for a 2-year, a base plus 1 year Mentor Protege program that can be used for varied things such as trainings, getting certifications within those small businesses, et cetera, et cetera. So that's also one of the big, huge differences of the two programs.
Great. Thank you, ma'am. So this one's for Mr. Smith. We're looking at innovation. If I have an innovative technology that I think would be a good fit for Department of Navy use, how is it that I can get this technology at least tried in procurement, in technologies that the Navy is using?
So that's a very good question. And the Office of Naval Research is where we go to get research and development, science and technology, and discovery and invention. Those three universes of technology is not quite mature enough yet to be fielded out in the field for warfighters to have in their hands right away. But to mature that product, to mature that technology into something that's going to serve as a warfighting need, the Office of Naval Research is there. And we have a number of different tools in our toolbox that we can use to contract out with entities to see if that capability is really something we want to further invest in and move towards that, getting it to the warfighter. The Small Business Innovative Research Project, SBIR program, is one that we use quite heavily. But again, folks, remember, we're not doing things just because it's a nice to have. That particular capability has to be serving to support a warfighter need. So just because it's cool, just because it's slick, just because it does something that's a novel idea, doesn't necessarily mean it has a military utility associated with it. But getting those kind of ideas vetted through the Office of Naval Research, we have at sea experiments that we do several times a year where we bring folks in technology to the warfighter. We do demonstrations in front of them, and the warfighter says, if it only did this, or if it was only like that instead of like this, and you can get real-time feedback from those operators out that are in the Navy, in the Marine Corps, that are supporting that mission. So we have a number of avenues where we can see it, try it, demo it, invest in it, tweak it, modify it. Those things are all available through the Office of Naval Research, primarily within the department, as far as the major buying command that capability is associated with. And then as you get more and more mature with that technology, you show up in a major buying command like NavAir. Anything that flies comes out of NavAir. NavSea, anything that's operating on the sea, under the sea, those things come out of that particular command. So depending on where you end up in the level of maturity of your product, from a technology readiness level 0 all the way up to 9, we have different entities and funding streams and vehicles that we can use to further that interest and get it into the hands of those who need it.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. And I think this was a great one, first time out the gate. I think we're going to have some more of these because we've still got a lot of questions that we didn't get to. So it seems pretty popular, but I'm going to get ready to close out because we got 2 minutes. So on our website under, is it resources, I believe, Destiny, we have this little handy dandy overview book, which provides a quick summary of each one of the Department of Navy. So the Navy and Marine Corps buying commands, who is the small business director there, along with their web address and their email and their top 5 NAICS. It also includes their mission. So Mr. Smith just talked about figuring out where you fit in doing business with the Department of the Navy. We have a QR code there, which links to our steps to becoming procurement ready video. But also we have our connect with us. So it's really important that we think for you to connect with us on one of our social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter, because we share a lot of information there from industry days that some of the commands are having. We highlight upcoming procurements. And then we also have a subscribe to our email, which is called the MailChimp service. So if you subscribe, we promise it's only one email a week, but we send out a lot of helpful information, things that we're doing. Ms. Denise looks through all of the legislative and regulatory updates, and she'll provide some updates that might be pertinent to small businesses. But also, if you want to check out Mr. Smith and where he's speaking next. So he's like the Wally. Where is he now? At any of the events. We have Navy Weeks that we participate in, so you can join us there. So please connect with us on our social media platforms. But lastly, Destiny, I'll have you pull up Gold Coast. We will be having our 2022 Department of Navy's Small Business Procurement event, which will be held in San Diego, California. You can get to the website is navygoldcoast.org. So please, we look forward to seeing you there. Let us know that you joined us on our first office hours, and we're happy to have you. And this is the schedule of events for our Navy Weeks procurement workshop. So if you're in one of these cities, we hope to meet you there. So with that, I'll say thanks everyone for your time and for joining us. And there's the save the date for Sierra's Place for next year. Destiny was clicking quick. Thanks everybody. Have a good one. Stay safe.